In 2004, Newcastle's streets were ruled by the Nomads, outlaw bikers bound by a blood oath. At the center stood Dale Campton, loyal to the core until one brutal night shattered the brotherhood. Gunshots, betrayal, and a code broken. What followed rocked Australia's criminal underworld. 40 bikers, one ambush, and a man left for dead. But Dale didn't stay silent. His truth sparked nationwide raids, hundreds of arrests, and the rise of Strikeforce Raptor. Was he a traitor or a hero no one saw coming? This is the raw, real story behind the headlines. Subscribe for more untold stories that expose the underworld from the inside out. Chapter 1. Brotherhood Written in Blood. So picture Newcastle in 2004. This isn't some back alley. This is the stomping ground for legends. Bikers here aren't just guys on Harleys causing a bit of trouble. They're the big dogs. Guys everyone's a little nervous to cross. But inside those walls, these blokes call each other family. That's what keeps everyone together, or at least that's what they tell you. Now, let's talk about Dale Campton. The dude's tough as they come, sergeant at arms for the Nomads in Newcastle. For Dale, loyalty wasn't negotiable. It was the whole game. You didn't snitch, you didn't crack, and above all, you never turned your back on your brothers. That's what everyone drilled into him, and he bought it, all in, until things went south. See, these clubhouses aren't where you go to kick back after work. They're more like fortresses than party pads. Patches aren't just decorations, they're badges you earn through grit and pain. No shortcuts. Then comes Sam Ibrahim, a guy who didn't exactly climb the ladder the usual way. Barely even a prospect before he suddenly rockets to the top. To some, the fire the club needed. To others, a slap in the face to everything they believed in. And then it happened. One grim night, 40 bikers from Parramatta's Nomads storm into the Newcastle chapter. You could almost smell the tension. This wasn't some spat over beers. This was the old guard going head-to-head with the new school, tradition up against bare-knuckle ambition. The kind of night that changes everything. Chapter 2. A night of ruin. It all blew up over spilled drinks and bruised egos. 1 minute, it's just heated words and tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then bam! Gunshots tear through the night, screams follow, and chaos takes over. Dale Campton? He gets hit hard. Bullets tearing through both his knees. For a guy whose life revolves around his bike and mobility, that's almost a death sentence. But he's not the only one hurt. Another rider's shot, and yet another gets a savage beating. Then comes the worst insult of all in this world. Patches, those sacred symbols that mean everything in the club, are ripped off and thrown on the ground. That's like spitting on the Nomads' whole existence. To the cops, sure, it's just another gang fight. But for Dale, it's a moment of reckoning. Lying in a grimy hospital bed with pain flooding every nerve, he faces a brutal truth. Where are his brothers now? They're nowhere to be found. Ghosts when he needs them most. For a long 18 months, Dale stays silent. Not because he's afraid, but because that's how the code works. You never talk. That's how you keep your patch, your respect, your life. But days turn to months, and months into nearly 2 years. As his body aches and the world around him moves on, an unsettling thought creeps in. If this brotherhood means nothing when you're bleeding out, if no one stands by your side when it counts, then what is it really worth? What's the point of loyalty when it feels so damn empty? Chapter 3. Breaking the Code. May 2006. A cold gray morning. Campton, tired, scarred, but still carrying the steel in his eyes, picks up the phone and makes the call that changes everything. He's not trying to cut a deal, not bargaining for immunity or a lighter sentence. No lawyers, no middlemen, just raw truth. After years of riding with the Nomads, bearing secrets and brothers alike, he's reached a point where the silence is heavier than the consequences. He's not flipping to save himself, he's flipping because he can't live with the weight anymore. Call it betrayal if you want. To the outlaw world, that's exactly what it is. But to Campton, it's the only path left that doesn't end in more lies, blood, or another shallow grave on a country back road. What he tells the police isn't just shocking, it's nuclear. A complete unraveling of the outlaw biker mythology. Behind the leather and the patch, he reveals a network rotting from the inside. power struggles that turned brothers into enemies, drug pipelines that ran deeper than anyone guessed, and grudges that went back years, each one more toxic than the last. The investigators, seasoned, skeptical, sit stunned. This isn't a man parroting lines to save his skin. Campton speaks like someone who's already lost everything except the truth. His words crack through the facade that the Nomads had carefully built. No wiretap, no surveillance drone could have captured what he laid bare. And then, the fallout. In the days and weeks that follow, shockwaves tear through the streets. Sydney, Newcastle, even sleepy suburbs where Bikie bikes used to cruise by without question, suddenly they're war zones. Police strike teams roll out at dawn, doors are kicked in, stashes seized, lives upturned, the headlines explode. Australia is riveted. And then comes the moment that cements it all. Sam Ibrahim, the iron-fisted Nomads boss, is arrested. It's not just the fall of a leader, it's symbolic. The man known for his swagger and violence, now limping on a sword-turned walking stick, taken down in broad daylight. For years, he was untouchable. Now he's just another name on a rap sheet. Thanks to Campton's testimony, the outlaw scene reels. This wasn't supposed to happen. They called it a code. Loyalty, silence, brotherhood. But the code was broken, not by a cop or an enemy, but by one of their own. This isn't just a chapter in police history. It's the beginning of a reckoning. Across the country, Bikie gangs realize they're not just under pressure, they're under siege. And nothing will ever be the same again. Chapter 4. Under the Spotlight. Testifying turns into a brutal ordeal for Campton. In the courtroom, the Nomads sit staring him down from the gallery, their looks heavy with silent threats. They even try to record him while he speaks, a clear message that the club never forgets, and anyone who breaks their code pays a steep price. Inside, Dale must feel like he's slowly sinking, gasping for air just out of reach. Then, unbelievably, the verdicts drop. Acquittal. The justice system stumbles, those old demons walk free. All the years of pain, risk, and sacrifice feel like they've been swallowed by some legal loophole. But behind the scenes, the impact doesn't fade. What Campton laid bare sparks a fire, not just under one gang, but in the entire conversation around outlaw motorcycle crime across the country. Chapter 5. The Ripple Effect. This is where it gets real. Campton's bravery, painful as it is in the moment, gives the police the upper hand to launch something totally new. Strike Force Raptor. This isn't just another task force, it's a full-on assault on the entire Bikie underworld. From 2015 to 2018, raids sweep through, thousands get arrested. Charges stack up like falling dominoes. Clubhouses crumble like castles under siege. What started as one man speaking the truth turns into a snowball rolling downhill, unstoppable. You don't often see this side on TV. The wives and kids keeping quiet as the clubs fall apart, the old guards reminiscing about the good old days. The streets might be quieter now, but a new tension hangs in the air. For years, the rule was simple. You don't break the code. But Campton shattered that myth. He proved to every corner of the criminal world that codes can be broken, and sometimes breaking them is the only way forward. Chapter 6. The Cost of Conscience. So is Campton a hero or just a guy with nothing left to lose? It really depends on who you ask. To the Nomads and every outlaw gang out there, he's nothing but a Judas, the ultimate betrayer. He didn't just walk away, he broke the code by spilling secrets. Any idea of Bikie life, being some kind of brotherhood, vanishes when you feel that kind of rage. Brothers turn into enemies and trust becomes poison. You live with eyes always watching your back, ready to run, with a gun never far away. But to the families caught in the crossfire of gang violence, and to the cops battling a system that's broke and outmatched, Campton is something different. He's proof that even in the darkest places, a flicker of conscience can burn bright. He's the anti-hero wearing a leather vest, flawed, scarred, but impossible to ignore. Haunted by what he did, maybe even more haunted by what he couldn't stop. Some say he's weak, others say he's brave. Maybe he's a bit of both. And maybe that's the whole story. In a world built on violence and silence, just choosing to speak up is a kind of rebellion. And that's where the real cost lies. The cost of conscience is everything, but so is its worth. Chapter 7. A Lesson in Shadows and Light. Let's get real. This isn't some Hollywood redemption story. Campton didn't ride off into the sunset with his knees fixed and a happy ending waiting. There's no victory parade. No club is ever going to frame his picture on their wall. What he carries are the scars, the limp, the memories, and maybe the hardest part of all, the uneasy piece of a man whose former brothers would kill him if they had the chance. But here's the real deal. Sometimes the line between hero and villain isn't clear. It's just a shadow shaped by the pain, the circumstances, or the moment everything finally breaks. Campton's story shows us that even in the darkest places, the rough clubhouses, prison cells, and courts that often fumble justice, one person can change the story. The boldest move isn't charging at your enemy, but standing up to your own side when they cross the line. Chapter 8. Why this story matters. If you're into true crime, obsessed with justice, or just someone who gets that redemption isn't neat and tidy, Campton's story hits hard and won't let you turn away. It asks the tough questions. What's loyalty really worth when it means betraying your own gut feeling of right and wrong? Can one voice, worn down by violence and pain, actually shake a world built on silence? Is betrayal always the bad guy, or can it sometimes be the first spark of real change? If you've ever dreamed about joining a patch-wearing brotherhood or thought outlaw life was just about bikes and beers, here's your reality check. The real cost isn't just jail time or scars on your body. It's your soul. Epilogue. The man who changed the game. Dale Campton never set out to become a legend. He just reached a point where he couldn't keep lying. By walking away and revealing the Nomads' darkest secrets, he gave Australia a raw, unfiltered look at outlaw life. Its pride, its pain, and that breaking point when staying silent costs more than you can bear. If this story hit you, share your thoughts. Would you have kept quiet or risked it all to do what's right? This isn't just about Bikie gangs. It's about all of us, the choices we make, and how far we'll go when everything we believe is put to the test.